Can you hear me? Então, de novo, como eu disse, essa live, bom dia a todos, extraordinário dia a todos. Essa live vai ser em inglês, então a partir do momento que a Kate entrar, a gente só vai falar inglês porque ela não fala português, mas vai ficar no feed para quem for assistir depois, como todas as outras lives que acontecem aqui, estão todas publicadas no feed. Então, eu vou pedir para a Kate entrar. A Kate é uma amiga, minha melhor amiga em Viena, já passou muita coisa junto comigo. Mas mais do que isso, ela tem mais de 10 anos em prática de yoga, ela tem um jeito super moderno de ensinar, e ela vai contar pra gente um pouco qual que é o perigo dessa yoga, né, de agora, que as cirurgias que ela mesma teve que passar. Enfim, so, from now on, we talk in English and you come with me, friend. Wait. Okay.
Hi.
Yes! Hi! So nice to be here with you. Wait a moment.
My love. I hope my
Let me
internet's
check.
okay. So my internet.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, now I can hear you. I lost you a bit before, but now it's fine. I can hear you. No,
I think my microphone was off.
cool. That happened.
So I want to thank you so much for being here with me, that we can talk about this subject that's so important.
Thank you,
Because
my love.
people are getting crazy about body and stuff, and I think they're kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
Right? So this live will be recorded, so it's here. My profile has lots of lives, and people normally come later and they watch their piece, and so it doesn't matter.
Nice because it kind of takes the pressure off. It's just like I'm chatting to my friend.
But you are talking to your friend. There's no difference. The only difference is that we are kind of an ocean apart.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes. Too far.
So, oh yes, but anyways, I want you to start talking a little bit about your experience with yoga.
Okay, so should I just like introduce myself a little bit?
Or... Yes, please.
Yeah?
Introduce yourself would be great. Yes.
Okay, so hi everybody who's watching now or later or whenever. Yeah. Okay, I'm Kate. I'm a registered yoga teacher. I've been teaching now for 10 years and I've been practicing for 15. And I still, yeah. And I'm still not a master. Yeah. But yeah, through my years and years and years of teaching and practicing yoga, there's been a few things that I've learned about this practice of yoga, not so much about the practice of yoga, because Liz, I got to tell you, it's not so much the yoga that is dangerous, it's the mentality that people go into the practice with. Yeah, yoga itself is actually a pretty holistic practice for the most part, but it's the way that it's been developed, and especially in the Western world now, the way that it has, you know, kind of evolved over the years. This is why it's not so. This is what I say when I'm talking about the dangers of modern yoga, because over the years I injured myself in many different ways. I've had incredibly dangerous spiritual experiences that I don't believe are healthy, yeah, in any way. And yeah, so this is kind of what I want to talk about today. So it's not so much that the yoga itself is a danger, it's the mindset and the lack, the sort of lack of knowledge and experience that goes into teaching such an ancient practice to so many people in such a sort of sometimes a bit of a dogmatic way.
All right, so
that's,
let's backtrack.
Yeah. There's a
little bit. Okay, first of all, I want to say that Kate is my best friend ever, and she has a wonderful, beautiful, amazing British accent. And a beautiful blue eyes that I love.
Yes. You always say it.
Oh gosh. But what I want to say here is I'd like you to tell us, why have we started practicing yoga?
Why did I start? My evolving into, yeah. Do you know what, Liz? I come, like, I'm going to start right at the beginning, if that's okay.
Please do that.
Okay. So my background, or my unfortunately my childhood, which I do believe everybody in the world experiences trauma. I come from a background of trauma. Yeah, there's trauma in my past, and it's a body-based trauma, you know. And so, of course, through the years and through unhealthy ways of managing my pain, I fell into not so healthy ways of coping, which included addictions, drinking far too much and far too heavily, and partying all night. It led me to like many really cool, funky experiences. That was really fun. Yeah, there was a lot of really fun stuff, I'm not gonna lie. But it got really dark at a certain point. You can have too much of a good thing. And yeah, it got very dark for me. And I started actually to get into exercise because I was told in no uncertain terms by the doctor that I have an alcohol addiction. Basically, he told me I was addicted to alcohol and that I needed to stop drinking. And so I started to exercise. I didn't stop drinking, but I started to exercise, yeah, because I wanted to
get something.
I just couldn't.
From the beginning.
Yeah, I couldn't. And do you know what? I actually started exercising because not only was beer turning me into a friggin' asshole, excuse my language, it was making me fat, right? So I was getting into this sort of body shape, this unhealthy, not saying that fat is equal to unhealthy, but I felt very unhealthy, yeah? And I got into a point where I was not happy with the state of my body, and I wanted to get fit or get fitter. So I started running, and I started doing exercise, and I started going to fitness classes, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then I realized after a few months of doing this, that I actually was getting fit and I was getting healthier and I felt better in myself. I was still drinking, but that's by the by. That came a little bit later when I stopped drinking. But I realized that I was actually extremely inflexible. And because I was getting very fit, my muscles were getting tighter, but I was not doing any kind of stretching, like literally none. I was just going out of the door and running, and then coming back running and not stretching at all. And so I initially started yoga as a way to actually stretch my aching muscles because I was exercising a lot. So it came from a purely physical perspective. I joined purely for the physical. Just the same reason I started exercising, purely for the physical aspect of feeling better in myself, and getting fitter, because I was starting to get to the point where I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without like, because I was so like,
right,
and yeah, so I started yoga like that. And the very first yoga class I went to, I had quite a profound experience of coming into the present moment and realizing how dissociated and disconnected I had been from my experience of the present moment. And so that was initially, that was the first yoga class I ever went to. And I remember sort of lying there on the floor and suddenly being completely in the present moment and feeling all the things that were happening right then and there, like suddenly feeling the sun on my skin through the window, suddenly feeling the air brush past me, like smelling the person next to me, smelling their perfume, and thinking like, oh my God, where have I been? Where have I been?
I know the sensation, friend.
Where have I been for 27 years? I haven't been here. I've been missing this amazing shit that's going on, all around. And yeah, so this was my very first experience. And I would love to say then that I jumped in and yoga was my only thing and I just went straight there, but I didn't. I left it. I didn't go back to yoga again for a few weeks or whatever, months, and then I started slowly to come back in, and I had more of these experiences of mindfulness, of coming into the present moment, of realizing, how I could connect to my breathing, how I could connect a little bit to my body. I still had many, many, many unhealthy ways of being in the world and unhealthy relationships with, certain substances and alcohol and stuff like that. That happened a bit later, but yoga was definitely a catalyst to help me stop drinking, smoking, all of this kind of stuff. It was probably the first catalyst.
So, but then you probably started with a traditional yoga, let's say this traditional one is more meditative. This is a more present one. The ancient yoga. Can I say this?
Yeah. No, that's right. Traditional yoga. Yeah, that's right. But actually, do you know what? It was I was working at the time in a fitness studio. So it was hatha yoga. It was a hatha yoga class, but there was no chanting. There was no there was only this mindfulness. It was more of a mindfulness class. It was like a,
right.
Yeah, and so that's more what it was. And I actually only went there. It was so funny because the first class I went to, I was sitting there thinking, man, this is so boring. Like, where's the music? Like, ugh, is this so? And then suddenly from nowhere I had this boom, this experience. And it was the teacher. Actually, the teacher was really good, and she was guiding us through this sort of a meditation, but it wasn't a meditation. It was like we were lying on the floor and she was guiding us through the body and this kind of thing. So yeah, it was really, really interesting. It was a really interesting first experience. And I'm sure this is something that happens to many people, and why many people keep coming back and coming back and coming back, even if it takes
love, look, I will just because I will give hi to people that are coming, that are excited coming here. I speak a little bit Portuguese.
Yeah, go for it. I'll see if I can understand any.
Bom dia para todos que estão aqui, que falam português e que entendem inglês. Então, Kate é uma amiga minha, ela é a minha melhor amiga da vida. E a gente está aqui falando dos perigos da yoga moderna. certo? Então, a partir de agora, eu vou voltar a falar inglês, porque o português dela, lógico, ela não fala, senão a gente estaria falando português. Ruim, apesar de uma fofoca aqui, ó, ela namorou um brasileiro há muito tempo atrás, mas ela não fala mais português, né, amiga? Okay, back to English. Forget your Brazilian ex-boyfriend.
Yeah. I think I got like 5%, my love.
Did you get it? Wow, this is amazing. This is already something. You haven't forgotten everything, right?
Not everything.
Just a little bit. So then we were talking about this meditative kind of mindfulness yoga, right?
Yeah.
And all right. So when was the point that you decided to work with that? Like, let's make it a profession. Because you are an amazing artist, I have to mention that here. We cannot forget that. And you have amazing works. I'm really a fan of your work.
Thank you.
Yes, but okay. So then, what was the point that you said, you know what, I will, or whatever, work with yoga?
Do you know what? I don't actually know when the turning point was. It just kind of happened. And as everything in my yoga journey, it's just kind of happened. It's just kind of without me really doing much about it. You know, it was sort of like I was practicing for a while, and yeah, just mostly practicing like Ashtanga yoga, hot vinyasa yoga in these hot heated rooms, you know, this kind of thing. And I was really loving it. I was getting really into it. And I think the turning point came because I finished university and I was working on my art in England, and I had a few exhibitions in some galleries, and I had a couple of galleries that were holding my artwork, and my work was reflecting more and more the spiritual side of me, you know, and my work was going in this direction. And I think I also wanted to do both, you know. I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to also somehow teach yoga maybe, but I'm not sure, because I'd had a lot of really inspiring, amazing teachers that had, you know, really just given me some great insights into the yoga world, and you know, this was back in like 2007, 2008, you know, so it was quite a while ago. But these teachers, they were wonderful, you know, and I put a there was, I think I was scrolling through, I was looking for something on Gumtree. And now, for those of you who don't know, Gumtree in England is like a place where you can sell stuff. You know, it's like this massive marketplace, and you can put stuff on there and you can sell stuff. And I think I was looking for something there. I was putting an advert up, and I saw that there was a yoga teacher looking for an assistant. And I was like, oh, okay.
Why not?
Why not? Here we go, you know.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'm here already, right?
Oh, okay, you know, I'll message this guy and see what he wants. And I ended up working for this guy probably for about 3 or 4 months. We couldn't do much together because we were you know, it was all online, and you know, it was a little bit it didn't work so well because our working methodologies were not so similar, you know. So and he wanted a lot of things that I couldn't really kind of help him with, you know, like, and so it ended up, but he said to me, listen, I think you should go and do this particular training in this particular style. I think you'd love it. And so this was his like seed that he planted in my brain. And I mulled it over probably for another 2 years before actually like taking the plunge and doing this course. And I went to a few classes of this particular style. It's the Shivananda style of yoga, which is a very traditional style of yoga. And I wasn't used to that. I was doing the Ashtanga with, you know, with hot and with music and, you know, this kind of stuff. But I thought, yeah, okay, why not? Why not? I'll do it. So yeah, I ended up, I think I got a bank loan or something. Yeah, I got a bank loan and paid for this course. And I originally wanted to do it in India, but when I called up the Shivananda Center, the person on the phone said, "Hey, listen, don't do it there. It's really like it's actually really beautiful if you go to Austria. It sounds weird, but Austria is probably the best ashram we've got." And I was like, okay.
Wow, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it cost more. It cost quite a lot more, but I was like, okay. And they really sold it to me. They said, yeah, this is really like one of the most wonderful ashrams.
Okay, by the way, we have to mention that you have lots of traveling experiences that probably we have to have another life just to share your experience on traveling.
Oh yeah.
Your adventures, our adventures in traveling.
Oh
my God, we have to do another one. Okay?
That was a lot of fun. I'm not done. I'm not done with traveling. No way.
But come on. Your stories are amazing. And then we will do another one. Do you wanna?
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So go on.
Yeah. And then,
Austria.
So I found myself, I found myself in Austria in the mountains doing this incredible training. And yeah, it was pretty life-changing actually, because I wasn't used to this very traditional style of yoga. Honestly, I wasn't used to all the chanting. Yeah, I wasn't used to this sort of very, very traditional way of doing it. But it was a life-changing experience to go to Austria and do this in the mountains and take these meditative walks and watch these incredible sunsets over the mountains and connect with the forest and we had amazing people in our group, and the whole energy of this time that I spent in this ashram was just really amazing. Yeah, I mean, and at the time I was struggling very badly with my health. I had a number of health issues that were going on, and I found that my time there, now I realize why, but my time there, my health issues got a little better while I was there. But it was actually more to do with the diet than it was the action. But also, just getting into your body, the spiritual practice, this kind of thing as well. It really helped. So it was a really life-changing experience actually. And yeah, when I came back, I had met my future husband on this training, and I ended up just sort of packing a bag and saying, okay, I'm going to go to Austria, and I'll go and see how things go with this nice yogic guy that I met, and then I'll if it doesn't work, this was my thinking. I was like, yeah, you know what? If it doesn't work, I'll just take my bag and I'll go to India and I'll just study more yoga. That was really what I thought.
You know what? We have an expression here in Brazil, and we got a commentary here that's a life of millions that we are doing here. It's like life de milhões, like life of millions. It means worth a lot.
Oh, cool.
We have an expression here which is really funny. It's a millions for everything,
Yeah, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so muito obrigada. Thank you so much. And then so great. Then we went to Austria. And
yeah,
I want you, please, to make kind of comparisons, because now we started talking about the dangers of this yoga, this modern yoga, and that's our topic here, basically. But I want you to make some kind of comparisons between this practice from today, from the ancient practice, how it started, and what was development that came to this point in time.
Well, I mean, I'm not like an expert on the history of yoga, to be honest, but I'll give you what I know. The yoga obviously is thousands and thousands of years old. It's like a thousands of year old practice. Obviously originating in India, a spiritual practice, and that was originally, I think it's very good, I think this is a very good time to mention this, that was originally made by men for men. Okay, women were not allowed to practice in the ancient yoga traditions. They were not allowed to practice. So this is a practice that was made by men for men, and it's thousands and thousands of years old. And in the 1920s, it was brought over by a Swami. He came over to America and did a talk on yoga. And then the seed was planted, and then more yogis came over from India to the West and did more information, more talking about it. And then the real boom happened in the 60s. Yeah, there was this huge uprising of yoga in the 60s. And the tradition of yoga that I follow had a huge boom in the 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, because of the Swamis that had come over, who were disciples of Swami Shivananda, and had come over and wanted to give the teachings of this Swami there. So the practices that were brought over have obviously been, filtered down through the years, and are based around the Yoga Sutras. This is like the Yoga Sutras. There's a book written many, many thousands of years ago. And so this is what's happened. It's been sort of brought through the ages by people, starting with men. And these men brought yoga over. Of course, then women started to practice. I don't know if this is actually the case, but I do believe that this is the reason why more women now practice than men. And I do believe that women, to a certain degree, obviously, are much more, they kind of sink into these practices easier than many men. And that's not the fault of men, that's society's fault, because men have been so shut down from their emotions and their, because they have to be, because of society's obligation that's put on them to be masculine, But I do believe that this is why yoga is now much more practiced by women. It's because we are able to sink into these practices easier. And so it's developed through the years and over the decades. And it's been developed and evolved and taken on by the West and by Western culture now. And this is where I think some of the dangers lie. And it's not that I thought that, I don't think the traditional practices are any less dangerous than the ones now, It's just that the modern day yoga style now in the West sometimes focuses a little bit too much on these masculine energies that have come through the times or through the ages with it, because of it being evolved for a practice for men, by men. So, and of course we live in a patriarchy. We live in a patriarchal society. We live in a patriarchal society. And our patriarchal society values pushing, forcing, striving, competition, all of these things that they don't really fit into a yoga practice. But that's how we are in the West. And so what's happened is this practice that has been brought through the ages has now evolved into something competitive and something the way you strive to obtain certain positions or certain things that you can do with your body.
This competition you mean is a competition with self?
Also.
Or is a competition with others?
Also.
It's like a sport. Let's say that yoga became a kind of a sport.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look under any kind of when I wanted to start my Instagram account, there's like health and wellness, which you could put it under, or fitness and something else. And a lot of these pages are under fitness, the yoga things, rather than sort of health and wellness. So yeah, that's it's this competitive style of of being in the yoga room. And also the fact that now the yoga that was developed many thousands of years ago, they only had their very, you know, they had knowledge of anatomy, but not to the extent that we do now. And so when I was doing my yoga training, quite often the teacher, I would be in a pose or in a position, for example, something where my back was bending, you know, my feet were up, and they would come along behind me and grab my feet and push them towards my head, you know, and use the physical force of their body to get my body into the position. And this caused me I had no knowledge of anatomy back then. And a lot of the yoga trainings that happen now, that are going on now all around the world, I mean, I think it's getting better, but there is no anatomical training, or a very, I think we had half a day of anatomy training in my traditional yoga training. There was no...
It means that yoga teachers, they have no knowledge about anatomy, body, or
usually not. I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better. Yeah, my friend Zoti, she just said, time to leave the class. Yeah, exactly. Really. It's really like that, you know. But of course I didn't know any better back then. I'd only been practicing, I think, 5 years or something like that. Nobody back then talked about anatomical things, or talked about, you know, actually your body might not bend that way. It just might not, because your anatomy might not allow it. Your physiology just might not allow it, you know. And I think a lot of people don't realize that flexibility is actually a huge portion of your flexibility is genetic. It has nothing to do with how much you work. You can work and work and work. Like there are yoga poses that I've been working on for 15 years. I'm never going to get them the way it looks on the Instagram profiles, because my body is not anatomically designed that way, and it's never going to be designed that way. And I can work on my flexibility and work on my flexibility, but probably all I will do is give myself tendon problems or pull my muscles, or because it's genetic. For the huge part of your flexibility is genetic. It's designed at birth. And there is,
you know what? I have to mention that I practiced yoga for, I think, about 3 years, some years ago.
I think we did some together once, right?
Yes, also. But here, back like 15 years ago, when I was in Brazil, I was living here before. I had a wonderful yoga teacher, and she was very respectful with this kind of how about flexibility. You know, she didn't force anything, so I've never had any injury. Or it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, and you know my story about surgeries and blah blah blah. So I had, you know, the hands and so, and I couldn't really continue because of disrespect of my body. But yoga is an amazing experience if you have someone that can guide you, like in a way that respects your body, your mind, and the way you work and your flexibility and all that stuff.
100%, my friend, 100%. And this is the way I now try to teach my classes, because also, you know, there is it's not only the flexibility side of it, you know, it's also coming into a yoga practice with a background of trauma like mine, like body-based trauma. You tend, if the practice is extremely strong, or you tend to put the teacher on a little bit of a pedestal, and you think that this teacher knows everything, you know, because I think a lot of insecure people do that, you know, people who don't know their bodies very well. For example, if you come in from a place of trauma, you've probably been dissociated from your body a lot of your childhood, like me. You're just not in your body anymore. If something overwhelms you or is too challenging or too stressful, you go somewhere else. You know, you're not there anymore in your body. And if somebody were to ask you, well, where do you go? You say, I don't know, I'm just not there. I'm gone. I'm somewhere else, you know? So you can function and you can walk around in the world and you can function like that for many, many years, but you're not in your body. And this was what yoga gave me back. It gave me back the feelings and the sensations of being here, now, present, in my body, in this moment, you know? And I mean, I still struggle with dissociation, and I still have times where I ignore my body and its signals. And that's what causes the danger. When you ignore your body because your teacher, for example, comes up behind you, grabs your feet and tries to put them on the back of your head without asking or without even considering your lower back or your flexibility, and you think, oh, my body should be able to do this. I just have to work and work, you know. And, you know, or they say things like, yes, your back bend would be deeper if your heart was more open, you know, and it's just,
But you know what? It's a kind of, as a matter of fact, that we are living in a comparison time now where your reference is YouTube videos, your reference is Instagram, and your reference for life is everything in social media.
yeah.
And it's a big bullshit because
Yes.
at the end of the story, at the end of the day, what happens is we are uniques.
Yes.
We are people. We are different. We are never the same. We don't have the same bodies, the same physiology. We don't have the same anatomy. We don't have anything like that. So
Exactly.
how can we basically function like a poster that we see on Instagram or a class that you see by a master on YouTube, and you're
Yeah.
just, man, this
No.
is dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. My friend has just written out.
Vera.
Yes.
Hi, Vera.
Really? Yeah. My love. Yeah. No, really. And this, yeah, we took a workshop, me and my friend Vera, we took a workshop on Ashtanga yoga, and the person leading this workshop is quite a famous yogi, you know, quite a famous person. And they were doing adjustments on us that were, well, I think I had, you know, I think I had problems with both of my shoulders after that workshop for 5 years. It was because of the, yeah. And my friend, like this yoga teacher, went up behind my friend who's watching now, and yeah, my other friend was there too, and really pushed, like lay on top of her and pushed her forward. Wow. in a forward fold, you know. So my friend was sitting there. I'm getting some echo on the sound, friend. I don't know why. Getting some echo here. Yeah, I don't know if there's an echo on the, yeah, but anyway, my friend was sitting in a forward fold, and this teacher went up behind her and pushed her with the whole body weight. And the same for me too. And it was, and that's happened to me on more than one occasion. You know, my hamstrings, I felt them go bing. Yeah. Yes, she said it felt like pushing her forwards for a meet.
Oh shit, this is horrible, man. This is kind of, wow, this is insane.
Yeah, but you know what? And it's so kind of like drummed into you that, yeah, without asking as well, there was no.
Oh, there, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, there was no.
It sounds painful.
But this is how it was, you know, back then. When I did my first training, that's how it was. You just go up to people and you yank their bodies into the pose. And do you know what? I have injured people. I've injured people, and I've got to live with that now, because I took the training that I had, brought it into my life and my teaching. I started teaching yoga almost immediately when I came back. And I took this and I injured people because I was doing what I was taught to do. And this is the danger. This is the danger, because I went into teaching people thousands and thousands and thousands of year-old practice after 1 month of training, friend, with half a day's anatomy. And I took that training and I started trying to teach this incredible practice from a very traditional style of yoga, but it doesn't, you have to have more, I don't know, that for me, you know, they say you should just jump in and start teaching. And I agree, that's true. But you should not put your teacher on a pedestal, and you should not do everything the teacher tells you just because they tell you. You know,
but this can serve for everything.
It's
not only for yoga, man. This is for everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But it's so often that when a lot of people are drawn to yoga because, this is also a bit general, but you know what I mean. A lot of people who are suffering are brought to yoga because they want to ease their suffering, and they've heard that meditation can help and yoga can help and this and this and this. And a lot of people are suffering, and a lot of people, they don't really know who my friend has a really good point that she's just written there. I think teachers should be aware of their limits. Yeah, exactly. And this is also what you're not taught, or you weren't. I don't know if it's getting better now. I just did another training back in 2019, and it was a lot better. You know, it was a lot better. But better, that's very subjective. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean better because there were parts that I've taken from the traditional training, and there's parts I've taken from the newer training, and you know, and there's parts that I've taken from all these trainings that I've done and all these workshops that I've done and everything like that. I've taken the parts that make sense to me, and I've left the parts that I feel are harmful or that I've seen are harmful, you know. And one of these harmful things is your students thinking that you have the answers to everything, or putting the teacher up on a pedestal, and that teacher saying, you obviously don't have an open heart, that's why your backbend isn't good. And then this person thinking, oh man, you know, they're obviously feeling a little bit like inflexible anyway, and then having like shame heaped on top of them, saying, oh God, my heart isn't open. What do I do? I've got to practice more back bends. Well, maybe their back is hurting, and maybe they're going past their limit and past their level of comfort, but they're thinking, oh, my heart is so closed. Or, you know, I have to open my heart. I have to do more back bends. And it's got nothing to do. Your flexibility has nothing to do with your character or you as a person. And this is like, there's these very sort of woolly and you know, these teachings that come from the very ancient practice that are brought into the modern practice, and it's just not really applicable anymore with the knowledge that we have now, you know. And so this, yeah, you know, it's like it doesn't really, yeah. And I mean, in my first training that I did, it was a wonderful training. I loved it. It was life-changing. It was fantastic. But I no longer do some of the things that they do in their physical practice classes that they would do, because I feel that it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's downright.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think back then or nowadays as well. Okay, tell us your personal story, because I know you had a knee surgery already.
Yeah.
And you need another one.
Yeah, I need another one on the other side.
You're making a collection of knee surgeries. So, is this connected to the practice of yoga?
I don't think that this is directly attached to that, because I blew out both of my knees cycling, actually. That's what and doing squats with weights on my back, you know, doing squats in an inefficient way. I popped my knee, I popped my meniscus. But I don't think it helps in the yoga practice, certain movements. So yeah, my friend, she's written a comment here. It's totally, that's it. It's not, yeah, the depth of your yoga pose does not equal more value. But yeah, no, I think my knees have nothing to do with yoga, but they were not, it wasn't made any better by being told that I should get into lotus in order to meditate. And for those of you guys who don't know, if you're going to come and watch later or whatever, lotus is the one where you're legs are crossed and your feet are resting on your opposite thighs. Yeah. And so for years, I would like yank my feet up and put them onto my thighs. And I would hear my knees going, you know, and it would be like, oh, fuck it. You know, I got to get into lotus. Otherwise I can't meditate properly, you know. And it's just so much bullshit. It's like, yeah, actually, do you know what was funny? Actually, that on my first training, that was on my very first training, one of the swamis, one of the head swamis said, you know, I don't practice lotus anymore because my knees, I blew out both of my knees doing lotus and trying, you know, flipping the knees and everything. Because your knees are not really supposed to bend that way. They're a hinge, you know, they're a hinge joint. They don't bend like sideways and a lot of people, you know, they don't realize that this is actually the flexibility of your hips that is needed to get into lotus. It doesn't really have much to do with the knees. Yes, a little, but yeah. And so people will yank themselves into positions without much thought, because some teacher somewhere, possibly that they respect, has told them that that's the way to do it. And this is a really big danger, and this is a really where critical thinking comes in. And a lot of people, if you are perhaps a little bit younger, perhaps coming from a place of insecurity where you desperately want somebody to tell you how to do it, you desperately want, if you've been disconnected from your body for many, many years and you don't actually know what your body is feeling because you've never learned about it, to have somebody there tell you. That's
basically, you don't know yourself. Basically, you allow people to tell you, and you just do it. For example, I practice meditation, you know that for, I don't know, over 11 years already, almost 12 years meditation on a regular basis. And I had, for example, this idea of lotus position, which for me, it was really painful. It was kind of, it was not helping me at all. I used to end up the meditation practice with pain and lower pain in my back, lower back pain and knees. I said, come on, what's the sense of it? Can I just find a position where I can just comfortably relax my mind and be present and practice all the stuff I practice spiritually? So when I started developing and exploring, I would say, this kind of what position would be better, my practice just skyrocketed. I wasn't in pain. I was just doing whatever was needed.
Yes, and that's it. And this is the main danger now, is this danger of modern yoga. The danger of modern yoga is not the yoga itself. It's the mentality that you go into the yoga practice with. And this is what I said right at the beginning. You know, it's like, it's not so much the practice. It's the mentality that many, many people go in with. And many people go to yoga, they don't know themselves, they don't know what their limits of their body are, which it's okay, you don't have to know that, you know. But I do believe a teacher should be a guide and a facilitator, and not a dictator, and not a person who is going to tell you how you should look, how you should feel, how it should be, because it's not going to be like that for everybody. I'll tell you something now, even in the spiritual side, I'll tell you something now. I went on a few years ago, I went to a Vipassana, a silent retreat. And this Vipassana, I'd been reading about it for a really long time, and I wrote a blog post about it actually. And this blog post has gone like nuts. I think I've got like 500 people like read this blog post now. It's gone like, well, nuts for me. This is not nuts in the grand scheme of things, but like in my world, I'm like, whoa, 500 people read my blog post. I was like, wow. And it was like Vipassana, spiritual like retreat or descent into madness, because for me, this particular style of meditation does not work. It does not work. And, you know, I swear I almost went insane on this retreat. And I ended up like having to fight to be let out. I had to fight that they would let me out.
I remember this.
I had to fight. And I think I left like 2 days or something before the end. And I had asked already 3 or 4 times to leave. But they had all my stuff. They had all my things. You know, I was stupid enough to give them my things at the beginning, you know? And I swear I went to this teacher, and because of course the teacher is this teacher, and you know, I think to myself, well, this person knows better than me. You know, they've been doing this. It's this whole like white coat stethoscope effect. You know, it's like this person obviously knows better than me, and they know what I need and what I should do. And so they didn't let me go. And I swear to God, if I'd have stayed any longer, I would have been taken out of that place in a white coat. I was going insane. You know, I was losing my mind. And, you know, it's like, it was terrible. And so I will not recommend a Vipassana retreat to anyone who has had any trauma in the past where they had no control over what they did with their body, or no control over, you know, because basically you are shut in, you're not allowed to do anything, you have to sit for hours and hours and hours a day in meditation, you're not allowed to move, you're not allowed to, like, you know. So if you have any body-based trauma where this is going to trigger you, because that's what's happening to me, I was getting very triggered because I wasn't free, I wasn't allowed to do anything, you know, and I didn't realize that. I thought when I went there that I was going to be allowed to walk around in the woods, or, you know, go and meditate in the forest, but you're not allowed out. You can go into the garden for like 10 minutes in between meditation sessions, but that's it. And I didn't know.
Man, it sounds like prison.
It was terrible.
Sounds like a prison.
It was terrible, really. And like, so I would not recommend this. I think it can be incredibly transformative for many people, but I would not recommend it to a person who comes from a background of body-based trauma where you had no choice what you did with your body, what you did generally. You know, this is going to trigger you, like, or at least in my case it did. So I would warn against that. Yeah. Ahimsa, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it's harmful and it's, you know, the thing is that this is sort of, it's promoted, and this goes for all, you know, yoga as a sort of umbrella term, including this Vipassana meditation, including this, you know, it's sort of touted as this cure all for every kind of ailment, you know, and that's just not the case. It's just not the case. It's like, it definitely can give you more self-awareness. It can definitely give you more body control, more balance, perhaps. It can definitely help you to make better decisions, to get more in touch with yourself, to learn where your body's limits are and where your mental limits are and your emotional limits are, which everybody has them. It can definitely help you get to know yourself a little bit better, but only in a few cases is it going to be a complete cure-all for all your problems. You know, it's just,
No.
it just
It
isn't.
doesn't make difference, because look, if we think we are different people in different time of our evolutions, our consciousness, and okay, for some people, a place like this one could be really good.
Yeah.
Could be really, no, but for people like us, because I know we kind of match in this point too, which is, I can't see myself in boxes.
Yeah.
You know, like I have to have a name behind my back to do whatever I have to do, and I don't agree with that. And I'm kind of facing this already here in Brazil, and I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I trust that I can do it. I trust that I'm able to realize what is good for me, and that I can keep on going, like my work based on my heart.
Yeah, that's
The
it.
mission I have in my soul. I don't want to have a name stamped or a label that I'm this or that. I can't.
Yeah.
So you are basically the same as well. I know that you are. And when we talk about when you get a place like this and you put everybody there and you think, oh, it's good for everyone, it's not true.
No. And this is it. And this is why, this is so funny. This is why I absolutely kind of love it when people come to my yoga classes and they sit in the room and they do their own class. They don't listen, they just do their own class. class. Yeah, I have a few students who come to my classes because I love that. And I say to them at the beginning of the class, listen, if I'm doing something today, or if I'm giving instructions today that don't fit with your body, you don't have to do it. Know that right now. You do not have to do something that doesn't fit with you today. If your body or your energy levels or your mental state is not where the class is right now, you can, even if you want to, get up and leave. You don't have to stick with me. I don't fit with everybody. I'm not gonna, like,
Right.
you know, it's really okay. And so I have a few students that would come to my classes and they sit there because they know that I love that, and they just do their own thing. You know, if the class is, or they, you know, or they add stuff if they're feeling super powerful and the class isn't really challenging enough for them, or they skip a lot of things and they sit at the back and they do their own stuff and they just breathe with themselves. And, you know, and this is wonderful. This I believe is a inclusive space, and a space where people can be safe to actually practice. When you've got somebody standing there at the front of the room saying, don't drink water, you get your leg behind your head, you know, it's like, this is not a healthy space, you know. This is not a healthy, safe space, because our society generally, dude, we're fucking traumatized, all of us. We're traumatized. We're traumatized from having so much, like, information thrown at us all the time. You know, you can't go through, like, what do people do first thing in the morning? A lot of the time when people get up, grab their phone, check their phone. They have no control over the messages that they are receiving straight away first thing in the morning. And that shit could be open Instagram, and suddenly you've got starving babies coming at you first thing in the morning when you first open your eyes, you know. And this is just, our society, unfortunately, is breeding a whole bunch of traumatized people, I believe. And these people, or we as a society, I believe we need to be softer with each other. We need to be more loving, more like, you do you. If your yoga practice today includes or only consists of lying on the floor crying, that's your yoga practice today. And it doesn't mean that you are lying on the floor sucking. No, that can be just as powerful a practice as if you go and do 1,000 chaturangas, you know, for if you yogi press up, 1,000, you know.
Okay,
it's just as powerful. And so the danger lies in this. I wanted to make this point as well. The danger lies when you come to a yoga class thinking that your practice has to look exactly the same as it did yesterday or the day before, as it did, and it has to look the same again tomorrow. And this is where I believe I can tie everything all up together in a nice, neat little bow. This is where I believe the patriarchy is a little bit to blame. Because this yoga has been brought many thousands of years ago by men for men. It hasn't been, women's bodies and women's hormonal balances and levels have not been taken into consideration.
For anything. Not only for
anything. Yeah, for anything. Even
we have to punch it 30 days a month, the same.
Yeah. And because this, I mean, men have fluctuating hormones throughout the month too. But for women, this fluctuates every 7 to 10 days or so, depending on your cycle and depending, you know, whether or not you're in menopause or perimenopause or whatever. Your cycle is going to change and your hormone levels are going to change, which means your energy levels are going to change, which means you are going to be, on some parts of your cycle, you're going to feel extremely dynamic and extremely full of energy. You're going to be very communicative. You're going to be very able to empathize with people and communicate and this. Other times, you're going to be very internal. You're going to feel very, perhaps, lethargic. Perhaps you're going to have pain. Perhaps you're going to be, you know, you don't want to, like, go and do 1,000 chaturangas in the class. But society will tell you that this is what you have to do. And yoga doesn't help that. There are some styles of yoga that actually say you should practice this many times a week. You should hold the poses for this amount of time. you should breathe at this rate, you know, and all of this kind of stuff. And it's incredibly dogmatic. And unfortunately, this might work for a male body, but it's not going to work for a female body.
It's not the same.
And it's because we're not the same throughout the month. We have different energy levels. We have different times in our cycle as women. We have different hormonal times, different energies, different, you know, so you might go to yoga one week and have 4 days of an extremely powerful physical practice. And then you go the next week and you feel like you have to push and force yourself through this practice. That's when you end up getting injured. And that's when you end up striving and forcing for the glory of a pose, you know, the glory to get your feet behind your head or whatever. And there, it's a little bit like this. These options aren't really given. I mean, I think it's getting better now, and a lot of teachers are offering this, but the options to just take it easy if you need to are not really there. And then if they are given, the actual likeliness that the students in the class are going to listen to their own bodies and are actually going to, when everyone else is sweating and moving and doing the things, the likeliness that the student is going to have in themselves, like, you know what, I really should take it easy now, with the group dynamic that is going on, the likeliness that that student is going to lie down is kind of slim, unless they have been going to yoga for many years and they don't care anymore about the group dynamic, and they don't care anymore what anyone else thinks. They only care what they think. And this unfortunately comes with time. Yeah, peer pressure. There's peer pressure. And some people really like, some people, like, I love going to a class with a whole bunch of people. I love going to a public class. I think it's great. And I do think that there are times that you can be kind of energyless and go to a class with a whole bunch of people, and the energy of the room will bring you up, you know, and you'll feel like, yay, and you practice and you think, wow, I'm so much stronger than I thought I was today and everything, and that's great. But there are other times when your body is not going to need that, and it's a really subtle difference, and it's really hard to.
You have to be really present to realize that.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
You got to be so present, and you got to check in with yourself like every few seconds, literally. Every few seconds, you've got to say, is this what my body needs right now? Because I can't tell you the amount of times I've been in a sweaty, dynamic class and I've not checked in with my body even once, just maybe at the beginning and maybe at the end. And the rest of the time, I've just been there, either dissociated completely because I'm being trauma triggered and not even realizing it, or I'm just like sweating and shaking and holding this thing and like, oh, you know, and it's like, yeah, was that really what my body needed? Probably not. Hang on, somebody just said something here. I feel sometimes there's even a, yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah, that's it. And that's what I'm talking about. Is it a constant
comparison? We talk about this before.
Yeah, and competition, to compete with each other, which is a very masculine energy. You know, it's a masculine energy, and that's not bad. It's not a bad thing, you know, to have masculine energies. We all have. Yeah. Yeah, but that's true. It's really and it's also, you know, it's also the case for a lot of people. I think when you're alone, you can listen to your body much better because there is not this constant pressure, especially because of social media and things like that. This whole competitive comparison with other people has like upped its game, I think, in the last few years since Instagram exploded and Facebook exploded.
So if you could give some hints, all right, like how to identify if this place is a responsible one with your body. Let's assume that people more and more people are connected to the present moment, their bodies and needs. So if you could say, okay, this kind of place is good, which kind of place should be that?
Do you,
And
do you mean a yoga studio friend, or what do you
yes, yoga studio, for example.
I would say that any kind of yoga, any kind of studio should offer, in my opinion, should offer a range of different practices. You know, so they should offer a range of different things. So yes, you can have a dynamic practice, but there's also a yin class, which is a restorative yoga class. Or there is also maybe a meditation, or there is also perhaps a very alignment focused class, or there is, you know, and it doesn't have to be all on the same day, you know, it doesn't, but it should offer a range of different things that are going to cater for all kinds of different moods that people are in. This is assuming that people do begin to realize how they're feeling, they get more connected to themselves, this kind of thing. Because at the moment, in the society that we live in now, this kind of a yoga studio is going to fail, because it's trying to cater to everybody, in which case it caters to no one. You know what I mean? So in this kind of day and age, unfortunately, right now, you need to have a niche, and you need to have, this is what you do, and this is only what you do. You know, it doesn't fit within my niche, I can't do it, you know? And this is just how it is right now. But if the consciousness begins to arise in people, then I believe a successful yoga studio could offer a lot of different things. They teach the teachers responsibility in the yoga room. For example, consent about touching other people. Consent is a huge one. It's like, I don't even know how many times I've been grabbed without being asked. I've been manually put into positions without so much, like people have come up behind me and just grabbed my hips. Do you know how triggering that is for a trauma survivor? This is like awful. Also breathing, the pranayama practice, the practice of this breathing technique. For me, I can't really practice pranayama. It gives me, I panic. Yeah, because a lot of the time in my childhood, I was unconsciously holding my breath. So anytime I have to do any kind of breath retention or breathing technique, I get panic, you know? And so I always say to people in my classes, if you do not have to do any of these breathing techniques, if you feel at all panicked at any time, if you feel like your heart's starting to beat a little faster, or I would get like palpitations doing these breathing techniques. Wow. And it's like, and I never knew that that was what it was. I just thought I'm weak, you know? No, it's a trauma response, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like, so all teachers, I believe firmly, should be trained in, should know about consent. Like, or they should say, you know, you are allowed to say no to me. If I come to you, I'm going to ask you before touching you. I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm going to put my hands on you. And I'm going to ask you if it's okay. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to guide you through the whole process, which is what I kind of try to do now, if I touch anyone at all, because I don't really touch anyone anymore. I've injured people, and I don't want to do that anymore, you know? So, you know, I believe that all teachers should be trained in consent. It's basic, but it's like that, you know. You know, and explain step by step. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I believe that too. My friend is saying, yeah, it should be trauma informed. I totally agree. And it doesn't have to be like necessary to teach a trauma informed class, because a trauma informed class looks a lot different to a regular yoga class, a lot different. But there definitely should be aspects of trauma-informed stuff going on in the teacher training, really. And learning about anatomy should be a huge portion of the teacher training, a huge part of it. It should be way, way, way bigger now. And yeah, so really a lot of options for people. It should be very inclusive. All classes should be inclusive. It should say, and the language has to change a little bit as well, because a lot lot of the time I hear in class quite often, okay, to deepen the expression of this pose, do this. But that suggests then that what the people are doing now is not deep and it's not good enough, you know? So I always try to say to people, okay, option, here's an option. There's an option. Option 1 is this. Maybe option 2 is this. Maybe option 3 is this. And I try to now go where my options, they don't always go easy, more difficult, more difficult, more difficult, more difficult. Sometimes I go easy, difficult, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. Yeah. So it's like I mix it up a little bit so people can see what works for their body. And I say all the time, I talk probably a lot more than I should in a yoga class, but I'm constantly reminding people to check in with their body. Ask yourself, how does that feel? Yeah, this is really great. Really great. I'm so glad about that. She's saying half the TTC that she did last time was 200 hours. It's amazing. This is fantastic. I really believe that's what it should be. It should really be that, you know, because we need to know this. And trauma informed should be a massive part of it. And consent is, like I always say in my yoga classes now, I am going to need enthusiastic consent before I put my hands anywhere near you. And enthusiastic consent means, yes, please. I want that adjustment in a loud, strong voice. You know, if I go towards anyone and I say, you know, I'm just going to, is it okay if I just put my hand on your knee? And they go, I'm not going to touch them. Even if I get that tiny little bit of like, I'm not going to touch them. I say, okay, don't worry. Just try to push your knee a little bit over this way, maybe, see how that feels. You know, and I truly believe that there should be no, like, the pose should look like this. Because it's not going to look like that for everybody. Because everybody's anatomy is different, you know? So many options, many options. And then the option to not do any of it.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to ask you now is if you could give people hints to avoid the dangers.
Yeah. Okay. It's going to be a tough one, maybe, but I would probably say check in with your body every few seconds. And if you feel ever, this is during the physical process, but also, I mean, it could be applied to the spiritual and the mental process too. If at any point you feel anything that could be likened to pain, yeah? Now, pain is anything that is electrical, like electric feeling, a burning feeling, anything sharp in nature, or, you know, the only thing is that usually by the time you feel pain, it's too late. So you really got to stay present with your body. Notice if you have gone off somewhere else in your mind, bring yourself back, connect back to your body. And if you need to, completely ignore the teacher. Completely ignore the teacher.
This one is good. This one is good.
Yeah, really. And you know, feel you like, this is from a yoga teacher now. Anyone who is watching, if you are a beginner yoga practitioner and you go to a class where you really don't resonate with the teacher, your energies don't match, you're like, I don't like this person or something like that. And it doesn't have to be not even not liking someone. It can just be like, I don't feel good here. Leave the yoga class. Get up, walk out, and don't look back. You do not need to save this teacher's feelings. If it's at the expense of abandoning yourself in the process, leave that class. You do not have to stay there. If the teacher touches you without consent, you are allowed to be rude. You are allowed to say, "Don't touch me," in a loud, rude voice. You do not have to save anyone's feelings. This person is a stranger to you. This person is a stranger. They don't know your body. They don't know where you are. They don't know what's happened to you in the past. They don't know your dietary needs, so don't let them give you any fucking dietary advice. They don't know your anatomy. They don't know your physiological, you know, what's going on with you. They don't know if you have underlying issues, problems, things, unless you've told them at the beginning of the class, and even then it's none of their fucking business. You know, this person is a stranger. They know shit about you. They don't know anything about your body. You do not have to listen to them. Listen to your body first. And if your body is telling you that something is off, listen to it. Listen to it. Yeah. There is this awful saying in yoga: the pose starts when you want to come out. Bullshit. That's bullshit.
Oh my God. This sounds so cruel.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah, because, you know, it's true. You can have some very enlightening moments if you stick with a pose that is a little bit challenging. But there's a big difference between being challenged and being pushed into an anxiety attack or stress or dissociation from your body, or you know, there's a big difference. And I would say the biggest hint that I can give to anyone now is to learn the difference between challenge and stress and pain. Too much. It's a very like thin line, but you got to know the difference. And that's like, yeah, I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give to anyone is like, one, get to know your body. Get to know what it needs on different days, on different times of the month, on different, you know, men, women, everybody. You have different energy levels on different days. Don't beat yourself up. It's not, yeah, your yoga practice is not going to suffer if you miss one day or 2 days or 3 months or 3 years. You can go, yoga is always there. You can always go back to it. And it doesn't matter. You can always go back. You can always return. And yeah, feel free to ignore the teacher. Feel free to ignore the teacher. Feel free to leave the room and go home and do something else.
Wow.
The difference between challenge and pain. Yeah, it's like, and pain doesn't have to be physical. You don't want to sit in mental pain or numbness, yeah, which is dissociation. Basically, it's a numbing. You're numbing out your body. You're numbing it out so you don't feel it. And you don't want that. You want to feel what's going on in your body, and you want to listen to it. Don't ignore it. And the pose does not begin when you want to come out. Maybe that's your body telling you this is dangerous for me and I have to leave. There's another, you know, people say you have to be equanimous in the yoga practice to all your feelings and all your emotions. Well, that's bullshit. Imagine you're having a heart attack and you're trying to stay equanimous to your physical feelings while you're having a heart attack. That's not a good idea. You're going to call the ambulance. You need to take some action. You know, you don't stay equanimous to your body if your body is telling you something that doesn't work for you. Don't listen to your body.
Friend,
that's it.
We've been here already a long time.
Really?
And yes, 1 hour 20 minutes. So
oh my God.
This live was amazing. I'm so happy you had time to be here with me, talking about this so important subject. This was amazing. This live will be there in our feed because I put it as a collaborator, so people can watch it anytime, forever.
Share it around.
Yeah, so I will publish in my stories, and then if people have questions, I'm sure they are free to contact you to ask, and free to contact me about something as well.
Sure, yeah.
We are always open to talk to people because we love talking, as you can see.
Yeah.
And so I thank you so very, very much for being here with me and for talking. I'm so happy with this live because it's so informative and so, oh my God, if I can say, this is so important because people are getting injured. And yeah, and sometimes it's a matter of knowing the body, knowing the mind, knowing the limits, knowing what's the need of the moment. And people don't realize that. People are so detached, they're so somewhere else that they don't know what's going on. So I guess that what you said about the choice, giving a shit to your teacher, that you can, this is so powerful, and people can really take these few hints that you gave in the end to make their life better in the yoga practice, in the gym practice, and everybody is in meditation for everything that
everything.
you feel so pressured to
Yes.
function.
Yeah, I would
That's
really say, like, just do what works for you. You know, do what works for you. And this goes for everything, for all parts of the yoga practice. You know, it's like if something, you know, like I said about this meditation retreat, it doesn't work for me. And if something doesn't work for you, then just, it's okay. You don't have to force, you don't have to sit in misery. Sitting in pain. We sit in pain all the time anyway. We don't want to take it into the yoga practice as well.
So, yeah, you're right. Friend, my love, I miss you so much.
You
I miss
too.
Vienna a lot too. Enjoy the summer for me.
Thank you. And listen, if anybody wants to contact me, they can email me as well. I'm on contact@katesteiner.com. You can email me, or you can go to my website as well, katesteiner.com. You can find me there.
Yeah, that's also great. Because here we have the direct messages that you can send through Instagram.
Yeah, you can send that
it's
as
very
well.
practical too, so just check me in there. And yeah, friend, thank you so much.
Yeah, you
and
too.
you keep in touch, we keep in touch, and we talk, and let's do the live about our trips.
Oh my God, yeah, let's do that. That sounds
our
fun.
traveling experiences will be amazing.
Oh, I love you. Mwah. Beijos, my friend.
I love you too.
Yeah.
I miss you loads.
You too.
And so I hope we can talk, we can speak soon.
Yeah,
love you, love you, love you.
Bye.
Beijos, amiga. Bye-bye.
Beijos, ciao.
Bye.